Good afternoon, everyone. Today we're going to have a look at the topic of punctuation, covering the recap use of capital letters, recapping the use of full stops, commas, question marks, and apostrophes, and understanding how to use high-end punctuation such as commas for clauses, brackets, semicolons, colons, and hyphens. So the first topic we're going to have a look at is capital letters. So when writing, we use capital letters when we're using what we call proper nouns. Proper nouns can be a person's name, a place, a name of a celebration, a day or month, a start of a sentence, or when I is used on its own within a sentence. So we're going to have a look at the first paragraph here, and we're going to have a look at all the words that we think might need a capital letter in this paragraph. So we've got on March 2023, the Christian festival Easter will happen. So as we know, on is the start of a sentence, we know we need a capital letter here. Then we've got the day of the month March, which also needs a capital letter. Then Christian, and then Easter, because it's the name of a celebration. So 4 capital letters in our first sentence. Then, because we've got a full stop, we automatically know our P in people needs a capital letter. So people may go to church or buy eggs to celebrate. Full stop, capital D. On during Easter, capital E, we celebrate the rebirth of Christ. Capital letter on Christ. Then full stop on after Christ, or capital letter on it. It is celebrated across Christianity, name of religion, so that is a capital letter. And then we've got a capital letter on April and March, so that's where all our capital letters will go. Then we're going to have a look at the topic of apostrophes. So in English, there are 2 uses for the apostrophe. 1 is what we call possession, and 2 is what we call omission. We're going to start focusing first on the topic of omission. So when letters are taken away and replaced with an apostrophe, we call this omission. These words then become contractions, and these are found in informal texts. So, for example, letters to friends, family, might be emails, things like that. For example, a contraction is when a word is shortened and then replaced with an apostrophe. So, for example, I cannot becomes I can't, and the apostrophe replaces the N and the O. So, having a look at our words here, where do we think we might need our apostrophe, and what does that word then become? So, I will becomes I apostrophe LL, and it becomes I'll. Do not then becomes don't, so DON apostrophe T. They are becomes their, so THEY apostrophe RE, and then I am becomes I'm, I apostrophe M. And that is what we call apostrophes for omission. We then have the topic of possession. So when we want to show something that belongs to someone, we use an apostrophe. This is known as possession. We are saying here one thing belongs to another, but there are some rules to remember. If the noun, so the object, is singular, so there's just one, the apostrophe goes before the S. So, for example, here, the boy's phone, we've got one phone, one boy, one phone, so it goes before the S. If the noun is plural, so if boy becomes boys, then the apostrophe is after the S. So the boys' phone's more than one. Now, if the noun is plural, but in that plural it changes spelling, then the apostrophe is same as the singular, so it goes before the S. So, for example, man, change spelling to men. Woman, changes spelling to women. We don't just add an S. Child changes to children. So all the ones where it changes spelling we must put the apostrophe before the S. Then, if a name ends in S, then the apostrophe is same as the plural, so it will go afterwards. So let's now have a look at some example sentences. So we're going to have a go at putting the apostrophe in the correct place. So think, if it's singular, it goes before. If it's plural, it goes after. But if it's plural and changes spelling, it goes before. And if it's a name that ends in S, then it goes after. So we've got the company's plan. Think of the word company. Company, is that more than one? So it's just one, so it goes before the S. The jobs application form. Job application form. So it's just one, so it goes before the S. Then the children's shoes. So here we've got plural, but changes spelling. So it goes before the S. Then we've got Chris's computer was broken today. So we've got a name that ends in S. So where do we put that apostrophe? It goes after. And then the girls' lunches were packed and ready to go. So we've got a plural. So it goes after. And that is how we complete our apostrophes for possession and omission. So now what we're going to have a look at is we're going to now come on to our high-end punctuation. So first, we're going to have a look at commas for clauses. So commas can be used to separate two parts of a sentence, a main clause and a subordinate clause. A main clause is the main part of a sentence, and this part of the sentence makes sense on its own. So you could say it to someone and it makes sense. A subordinate clause is the second part of the sentence. This doesn't make sense on its own. So, for example, even though it's cold, that would be your subordinate clause, because if you said that to someone, it wouldn't make sense. Whereas the children still want to play outside, that is your main clause, because it does make sense on its own. It's what is called a simple sentence. Now, when our green bit, our subordinate clause, is at the beginning, we need to separate the sentence with a comma. And it's where you will take a natural breath. So what I want you to have a go at with these next few sentences, I want you to have a look at where you will take that pause. And then I want you to see where you think you can put in that comma in each of these sentences. So give yourself a minute, have a read of the sentences, read them out loud because it really helps, and then decide where you think that comma goes. Okay, let's have a look at these sentences. So despite the lack of attention by the council, the local park is still thriving. Where does our comma go? Where's that natural pause? And it goes after the word council. So well done if you got that. Then sentence B, if something doesn't change about the cost of living, there's going to be economic problems for the country. And our sentence pauses at cost of living. Well done. And then our third sentence, whenever I'm walking my dog in the park, I'm disgusted by the amounts of litter. And our natural pause is after park. So well done if you got those commas for clauses. Okay, our next topic that we're going to have a look at is what we call brackets. Now, brackets can be used to place extra information within the sentence, and this is known as what's called parenthesis. The information might not be needed in the sentence, but it's there to give you extra information. If you took it away, the sentence would still make sense. So, for example, the RMS Titanic sunk in 1914, April 15th. So the date gives us exact information when it happened, but it's not needed for the sentence to make sense. Then our oceans, specifically the Antarctic and Pacific, so telling us exactly what type of oceans are overwhelmed with plastic pollution. So if we took that away, that sentence would now read, our oceans are overwhelmed with plastic pollution. So let's have a look now at seeing where we can put our brackets in the correct parts of the sentence. So as before, give yourself a couple of minutes. Remember, there are round parts of the sentence that give you extra information and not necessarily needed for the sentence to make sense. Okay, let's have a look at where we put them. So the British Broadcasting Corporation, BBC, are exploring our current economic issues, and our brackets go around the acronym of BBC. Then the business that had financial problems and were making a loss. So we're going to put our brackets around that had financial problems. And then lastly, London is the largest city in the UK, and we're going to put our brackets around our dates, our measurements. So well done, fantastic. Okay, our next topic is what we call semicolons. So semicolons are used to separate two independent sentences that link in topic, or they can be used to separate items in a list that contain two or more words. So for example, here we've got our example A and our example B that it can be. So A is that it's two sentences that link. So for example, plastic pollution is a problem. We need it to stop now. So our second sentence links to the first. Then our sentence B, we require several table and chairs, support with catering, an on-site parking assistant and security for the charity venue. So remember, it's in a list that contains two or more than two words. So here we've got several table and chairs, 1, 2, 3, 4 words. Support with catering, 3 words. And that's our items in a list, and we don't need one the last one because we've got our conjunction. So let's have a look here where we're going to put our semicolons. So South Sudan is the newest country in the world. It gained independence in 2011. So we're going to put our semicolon between these two here because it breaks up the two sentences. The reason why we don't put a comma is because that's what's known as a comma splice. And the two sentences are independent, so you don't use a comma to separate two independent sentences. And then here you'll need to pack warm clothes, drinks and snacks for the hike. So here we're going to mention a semicolon. Books only needs one. Headphones and games for the flight, semicolon, pyjamas, toiletries and chargers for the hotel. So in addition for our semicolon, we're actually also going to look about why we wouldn't use semicolons. So our first sentence A, Marie had a great time at the cinema. Prawns were her favourite food. Just have a read of that sentence. Why are we not going to use a semicolon here? What's wrong with the second sentence that stops it needing a semicolon? It doesn't link to the first. Well done. So the two clauses are not linked or related, so they shouldn't be joined by a semicolon. Then I'm going to Paris next summer, which is one of my favourite places. There is a word in this sentence that stops you needing a semicolon, and it's this, which is which. The second clause is not independent, it could not be a sentence on its own. This is what would be known as a subordinate clause. Now, this is what we call a conjunction. So we don't need a semicolon with a conjunction, so no punctuation's needed. If we wanted to use a semicolon, change which to it. So I'm going to Paris next summer. It is one of my favourite places. And then our last one, my sandwich contained peanut butter, jam and banana. We don't need a semicolon between the last two in the list. We don't want to need one at the beginning because peanut butter is classed as all one word. Okay, so that's our semicolons. Next, we have our colons. So colons are used to introduce an item or a series of items or to provide extra information. So, for example, you may be required to bring many things: sleeping bags, pans, utensils, and warm clothing. I want the following items: butter, sugar, and flour, and I need an assistant who can do the following: input data, write reports, and complete tax forms. And it can also be used to introduce a set of bullet points. So, for example, I want us to have a look at these sentences. I want to give yourself a couple of minutes again, and then I would like you to then have a go at placing where you think the colons belong. Okay, so what do we think the A is? So don't forget my birthday, November 26, 2007. What word does it come after? And it comes after the word birthday. Superb. Okay, well done. Then we saw the usual students at the game, Thomas, Max and Sylvia, and it comes after the word game. Fantastic. Brilliant. And then our last one, I'm allergic to three things: milk, eggs and chocolate, and it comes after the word things. Fantastic. Well done. Okay, and then our last punctuation that we're going to have a look at today is hyphens. So hyphens are used to separate two adjectives that are used to describe a person, place, or thing. These are known as what we call compound adjectives. So they're words that are pushed together to create a better adjective. So, for example, King Charles was well known across Cornwall. Jenny worked part-time at the nursery, and it was a 2-hour journey. The hyphen is used between the two words. So, for example, I want you to have a look at the sentence as follows. So, the boy with blue eyes. So, what we do to change this into a hyphenated adjective or a compound adjective, eyes, as you know, are a noun. We then change to an adjective by swapping the S for an ED. So it becomes blue-eyed. It becomes, instead of blue eyes, it becomes a blue-eyed boy. So what I want you to have a go at, I want you to have a go at rewriting these sentences now, just as we've done with the boy with blue eyes. So then you're using a hyphen with the words that are used. Now, Depending on how many words you've got to push together, depends on how many adjectives. So here, the boy with blue eyes, and we're calling him a blue-eyed boy, blue and eyed, 2 words, so we're going to put 1 hyphen. The more words that we've got that we're pushing together, the more hyphenated that word becomes. So, what I want you to have a go, rewrite these sentences out now as a sentence that would require a hyphen. Hey, so let's have a look at these sentences. So the shirt with short sleeves becomes the short hyphen sleeved shirt. So well done if we got that. Fantastic. Then a person with a kind heart becomes a kind hearted person. And then a building that is 100 years old becomes a 100 hyphen year hyphen old building. Fantastic, well done. So today we've had a look at recapping the use of capital letters, recapping the use of full stops, commas, apostrophes, and looking how to use high-end punctuation like commas for clauses, brackets, semicolons, colons, and hyphens. So you'll be given a punctuation sheet with paragraphs. I want to work through those paragraphs, placing in all the punctuation that you've learned today. Hopefully that should build your confidence when using punctuation in your writing.